It's impossible to have a meaningful conversation about happiness without understanding what makes each of us tick. When we find ourselves stuck in unhappy careers or even unhappy life, it's often the result of a fundamental misunderstanding of what really motivates us. Motivation, desire, collaboration, stress in workforce, or life in general are some of the key topics we are going to discuss today. Welcome, everyone, and thanks for listening and subscribing so far and pouring so much love, as I mentioned in our previous podcast as well, to Let's Talk, which is a podcast for human skills and mindset. Today, I am in discussion with Myah Payel Mitra. And before I get into the details, let me give some kind of credentials about her. If you haven't already known her, she has a vast followers in LinkedIn so far, which I have seen. So she is an engagement and career coach, and India's only movement therapy with a unique background. And what exactly that unique background is, we will try to unwrap after a discussion with her. She's also recognized as one of the top women entrepreneurs working on mental health. She was amongst the top 200 chosen creators for LinkedIn, a creator, accelerator program, which just got concluded. Not only that, she is the founder of Still Flow, an organization for empowering women and youth. And one of the things is she's also associated with Lean In as a regional lead. And if you do not know about Lean In, this is the NGO started by Sheryl Sandberg. She's a chief operating officer at Meta. Some of the other organizations which we have found is 1 Billion Rising, Vital Voices, and in all these organizations, she just not helped people. She coached them, facilitated, mentored women and girls across the globe, across different industries, and including South Asian human traffic survivors as well. So we are trying to unwrap all those information. Now, if you're thinking that, okay, this is good, we haven't done yet. Apart from that, she has traveled across the world, so many countries. And a few of the things which also share with me and close to my heart is that she's a runner as well. So I'll go on and on, but at the same time, I'll take a pause and welcome Myah on the show. Thank you for gracing that time.
Thank you so much, Saurabh. It's really a pleasure and a delight to be here with you. I'm really flattered, so to speak, with everything that you share about me. Yes, it's been quite an interesting journey that I've had so far, and some of which maybe we will discuss in today's conversation.
Yes, definitely. So let's get directly dive into this. If we say about, like, you are in the engagement and career coaching and all those information out there. So at this point, what exactly you are doing in terms of helping business enterprises or people in general?
Sure. So I work as an employee engagement and career transition coach. I am a certified movement therapy practitioner. Like you mentioned, I have a very unique background of having worked in the corporate world for 15 plus years, and primarily my experience has been in the technology domain. And having worked in some of the largest, Big Four management consulting firms across the globe. I'm actually an engineer and a management grad turned coach, you can say, and that was kind of my unique, background that gave me that extra understanding of what it means to be in the shoes of an employee. Primarily when I have been working in extremely highly pressurized and highly demanding jobs. If you are from a consulting background, it's a work that requires tremendous amount of effort, and it's pretty highly demanding. I think that was the turning point of my life back in 2014, when I myself had a severe burnout issue because of workplace stress and several other episodes that happened. I was paralyzed on bed for 2 months plus, and thereafter, how my inner churning actually kind of moved me to understand that there is so much more to life than just work per se. And therefore my journey towards wellness, my journey towards prioritizing health and self-care became key. And so my journey kind of took me to understanding, okay, what does it mean to be in our bodies, and what does it mean to really feel our emotions deeply? And when we can feel connected to ourselves, how can we really connect to the other, which is other people, to the world at large? And I think that was my curiosity which led me on to studying movement therapy from Tata Institute of Social Sciences back in 2014. And I was part of their first batch in 2014. And again, the one and only person with this kind of a unique background. And therefore, now when I work as an employee engagement coach, working with teams, organizations, and individuals who are primarily from a tech background or working in large MNCs, I do understand where the shoe pinches, and therefore my programs are specifically curated and designed to help them work on burnout challenges, workplace burnout challenges, or even if we are looking at the current scheme of things where there is the conversation around great resignation. People are leaving jobs. I mean, the other day I was reading this report where it has come out that 86% of Indians will resign in the next 6 months, even after they have gotten a pay raise. So therefore, clearly money is no longer the motivating factor for many people. And so what is it that actually makes us stick around a job? And so my work is specifically in the domain of helping people get re-energized and reinvigorated with their sense of purpose and belonging. Understand what are their core value system. When we do understand our core value system and then kind of understand if it aligns to the organizational core value system, and do we actually see ourselves belonging to the organization, that is when we feel much more engaged, we feel happier at work, and therefore a productivity boost. So I work specifically in this domain, and again, since I am a certified movement therapy practitioner, I use a lot of somatic intelligence and basically embodied practices, kinesthetic empathy. These may sound like a bit of a jargon right now, but basically what it means is using the language of the body.
Got it. So you mentioned about the movement therapy and practitioner. For the people who may not know what exactly, I mean, is it something related to moving your body or something? If you can kind of elaborate a bit.
Sure. So movement therapy is actually a well-researched science that was started many years back. So Marion Chase is actually called the mother of movement therapy. She started it in UK at Elizabeth Hospital back in the days when she used movement to work with patients in mental health wards. And she found that the therapeutic element between how we move our bodies actually impacts the mood, impacts the way we think, and therefore helps cure many a disease. So that was her, she's been one of the pioneer in the field, and that was the work that she initiated. And thereafter there's been a lot of research that has been done in the West, and in India it's still pretty much very nascent and new as an industry. Not too many people know about it. I got myself trained in 2014. That was the first batch which was started at Tata Institute of Social Sciences in 2014. But we are sitting in 2022. Even now, not too many people out of the, say, 100 people that I may talk to, 99 people would not even know what it is. So I think it's still pretty much new and nascent. What it simply means is basically using the language of the body to be able to express yourself freely, authentically, and in a manner that feels psychologically safe. So basically using the language of the body, how we are able to express ourselves. Movement therapy works on 5 different levels of wellness or well-being. It works, definitely it works on mental well-being, it works on physical, emotional, spiritual, and social well-being. So if you look at the four components of holistic health, like they say, the four components or the four pillars of holistic health being movement, nutrition, sleep or rest, and connection. So you have movement as one of the key pieces, and movement is the language that we learn first. When a child is born, the first language that the child learns is of movement. If a child that is born is not moving, then the doctor will declare it as a stillborn because it's not moving. So, movement is integral to life, and movement is medicine, like they say.
Exactly. So that's great. I think it's pretty exciting to know that there is some more to the movement, if we say so, because when I got to know about the movement therapy, I was curious what's this all about. So thank you for providing this information, and definitely people who are more interested will try to reach you on that part. So let's discuss about a few of your, I would say, the journey, how you get to this part. You mentioned that you had your own personal challenges in terms of having, as you mentioned, that you were paralyzed or you were working for 15 years in different in the corporate world, being an engineer and from the management. Was it something always your dream of doing something you love? Or you, in those 15 years, were you struggling that what do I love? Or you were just across majority of the people like us who are like, we don't know what we love, so we just go with the status quo and then keep working as everyone is working. So how Myah has evolved from being just an employee with just doing whatever being told to now that a person in the podcast is spending a couple of minutes just to explain her achievements, which is so noteworthy. How exactly that transformation happened?
It's actually a great question, Saurabh, to ask. I'm happy and glad that you asked this because it's actually been quite a journey, so to speak. And perhaps what you see of me would have been very different if we had interacted 10 years before. I'm very honest about it. So for the I mean, for me, the first 3 decades of my life, like the way I see it, the first 3 decades of my life, I lived what I call the scripted life. The scripted life meaning do everything that society tells you, that parents tells you, that everyone else tells you. So I did everything that was prescribed, that was being scripted, that was being told that these are the things that you need to do to be happy, to be successful, which was in the form of get an engineering degree, do your masters in business administration, get a job in one of the largest tech firms, and so on and so forth. So these were the couple of things that I kind of went on putting a check in the box kind of a thing. And once I arrived there, and pretty much from one tech company to the other, to the other, to the other, the journey continued. And somewhere, I think when in 2014, I had that kind of a existential crisis, so to speak, where I was really struggling to understand what is the meaning of life and what is it that I want to do with the big life that I have. Because here I was on bed, paralyzed, where I was just observing the ceiling for days together because that's all I could do. I could not move, and at the very same time, the project that I was leading was winning awards in various different industry forums. And here I was struggling in pain, reading in pain, but I was not there to be up on the stage to be receiving that award. And so therefore I realized how much of sacrifice many a times we do without even understanding what is it that you're running after. So therefore it kind of it was like a aha moment for me in a big way, because I realized that there is so much more to life than just work. And also the fact that health cannot be compromised, because that has to be key, and that has to be key. And I think today when we are looking at a post pandemic world in the last 2.5 years, I think this is a no brainer for most of us, because almost everyone realizes now that health has to be a priority for all of us. Health, well-being, and it's not just mental, physical well-being. I also talk a lot about the emotional hygiene, the emotional well-being. Like we actually go to the gym for the physical well-being, right? To exercise your body. You could probably do a yoga, etc., or you would be doing some meditation practices for your mental well-being as well. But how are you actually taking care of your emotional well-being? Where is the container? How are you able to express yourself safely in a non-judgmental space? The area of work that I do, movement therapy and somatic leadership, allows us to do that, allows us to express ourselves freely without inhibitions, without having the feeling of being judged, in a very authentic, safe, genuine manner. And so therefore, coming in from my own journey and my own I would say transformational arc in many ways, this has been not only a part of my personal life, but now my professional life as well.
That's great. I think few of the things which is so powerful, which you just mentioned here, is one thing which really sticks to me, as you mentioned that while you were struggling physically, the project which you were working, it is winning awards and all. So that tells a lot about when we try to see people who are successful and see that they have an amazing life, and I really would like to, I wish that I would be in that place. We do not see the other things which has gone through, or maybe if that
Yes.
person is successful in your eyes, that person may be struggling with something else, because success is very subjective. What you are looking
Absolutely.
forward to, it may not be that other person is also kind of trying to or strive to achieve that. Awards are definitely from the employee perspective, people would like to have. But at the same time, if that person is doing just for the sake of it, and that person is not really loving that and trying to spend more time, that whether this thing which I'm doing is really worth it or not, then the whole story change. So that's very powerful thing which you mentioned, and which I think gives you a time to transform and think more about your life. And this is something which I strongly believe and recommend to the people, is that you have to spend more time with yourself to understand what you
Sure.
want. I know that we do not have a flip button that, okay, today I'm working in a corporate environment, and maybe tomorrow I'll become a saint and roam in a forest to seek some enlightenment. So there is a process for certain things. And first, you have to be very self-aware. Most of the leaders always mention that self-awareness is one of the key things to start of
Absolutely.
doing anything about it. So that being said, I think which I really like about the mantra which you have is, I think, living life by a design, not by default. Is it something you
Absolutely.
came up with yourself? You found you so I really love this quote. So how do you get this quote? Maybe I'll ask
It's
you
pretty
that.
much, it's pretty much the way I have
Mhm.
designed my life and co-created my life with the universe. Particularly so in the last few years of my being more self-aware, and I'm glad that you bring up the topic
Mhm.
of self-awareness, because self-awareness is key. If you are a leader in an organization, what we always say is first leading self and then leading others. If you cannot lead yourself, if you cannot coach yourself, then you probably won't be a great leader in itself. And there's this very interesting quote that I read in Simon Sinek's book, The Power of Why, or Starting with Why, which says there are leaders and there are people, there are those who lead. And I think that's a very interesting distinction. There are leaders and there are people, those who lead. Leader does not necessarily come with a job title. You may be a CXO or a VP or whatever, and therefore by virtue of the job title you are leading a team, you're leading an organization. But there is a difference between someone who's leading versus a leader. And I think for me, it kind of came very intuitively, because after that episode in 2014, like I mentioned, I became very much, I started becoming more aware. And also at the same time, since I was training myself as a movement therapy practitioner, around the same time, training myself got me in touch with my body, in touch with my emotion, and therefore the entire understanding of who am I and what am I here for, kind of answering some of these existential questions for myself, kind of started unraveling and unpacking. And so therefore, everything that I've done post that has been by design, because I have dreamt it, I have dared it, and I have done it. Dream, dare, do, like they say. So I literally, and I kid you not on this, probably since you are from a technology background and you understand, like I in my former, shall we say, a profession where I was working as a certified agile coach. I'm a CSPO.
Mhm.
And if you understand what is Kanban, basically, so I literally had a Kanban board in my apartment where I had done my entire planning of how the next 6 months of my life would look like and what I wanted to plan. And this was not just the project that I was leading at work, but from an overarching view of my life. What are the things I wanted to do? Like, for example, when I came back from San Francisco in 2019, August of 2019, and in after I had met Sheryl Sandberg, in San Francisco, and in October 2019 is when I had decided that I will be putting down my papers. I had planned my life after that as well, that this is the last date on which I'm going to put down my paper, and how will my life look like post this, what are the steps I needed to take, and also kind of working it both backwards and forwards in terms of, if this is the date I want to put down my paper on, what is it that I need to achieve, and how will my life look like. Because again, you probably know this of my journey, Saurabh, that coming in from an absolute tech and a corporate background, it wasn't one fine day that I just decided to like pack my bags and hang my boots in the corporate world. It didn't happen overnight. There was clearly a plan, there was clearly a thought to it, and I worked towards it. So which is why I designed it. I desired it, and thereafter I designed it and made it happen. And so, living by design and not by default. Default life is what everyone else is doing, the herd mentality, and just going by, allowing life to kind of take you wherever it goes. But I really took that pause and said, hey, hello, I really want to take a break here, pause for a while, and realign myself to what it means to live a life which is truly meaningful and purposeful to me. Like you mentioned, success is very much relative. What does success and fulfillment look like to me? Once I started understanding what is my personal definition of success, everything started changing.
Yeah. Yeah, very inspiring. I think what you mentioned about when you started thinking, being more self-aware, then you started working on plan and like what exactly I would like to be and how would I see myself in maybe 3, 6 months or 1 year. And you mentioned you traveled as well. And I think from what I understood from your journey so far is, once you become a self-aware, once you understand, okay, these are some of the things which we would like to pursue, then you have to take actions. And this is one
Sure.
of the very pivotal or daring or bravest decisions of quitting a job or something which is based on the society. You should not. And I assume that when you took this decision, there were not many supporters. I mean, there may be some
There
supporters,
was none.
none.
Honestly,
So
there
I would like to know
except
more
for
about that. Yeah.
yeah, so except for this one person,
Hmm.
who is my coach. My coach is the only person who believed in the truth that I came to her with. So I'll give you a little bit of since you asked this question, I'll give you a bit of a background to this, how it started. So when I got myself certified as a movement therapy practitioner back in 2014, and I kind of understood that this was something which has a huge potential to really transform, shift the lives of so many other people. And like towards the beginning in the introduction, you also mentioned that that gave me an opportunity to work with a lot of not-for-profit organizations in volunteering capacity. I worked with women from human trafficking backgrounds. I worked with children with sexual abuse kind of a background in orphanage homes, in shelter homes, and also worked with patients in mental health wards in various different hospitals. So I realized the potential that this work, which was using movement therapy, had, and how much that was giving me so much of joy and happiness. I really wanted to bring more of that work into the world. And so I went back to my, my native and had a chat with my family. Everybody thought I was crazy and they just shooed me away saying that, no, this is not happening. Like, you have a pretty decent job with a great paycheck and everything and a settled, stable life. Why would you just give up everything to do something drastically different like this, which is unconventional and something which is a big risk? And so nobody kind of believed in the idea or the philosophy that this is something that potentially could become my full-time profession. And somewhere I bought into that lie. And so although I kind of knew this is what I wanted to do, but perhaps having that chat really put me back a little bit, and I came back and I still continued with my full-fledged job in the corporate world for many years thereafter. However, what happened interestingly is that I did not leave practicing what I loved, which was my passion, which is, working with people using movement therapy. So I was doing this more as a side hustle, as a weekend thing. And therefore, since you mentioned still flow, so still flow happened around that time when me and a friend of mine, both certified movement therapy practitioner, we started this as a social venture because we were curious to see how this works and does it really work? And am I good at it? So I think for me, it was interesting because I got the answer to all these three questions. The fourth question being that, can I make money out of it? Because, these are, again, the four ikigai questions that one needs to ask when they want to really find meaningful work, or what is it that really makes your heart sing. So I think I kind of did that introspection for myself, that reflection for myself. And when I was convinced myself that now is the time, and it actually happened after, like, I had met Sheryl Sandberg in August 2019 at San Francisco in a conference, again being part of Lean In for many years and a regional leader at that. And so when I got an opportunity to meet her, and Sheryl had asked this question, what would you do if you were not afraid? And so for me, I knew the answer was very clear, that I wanted to do this, but perhaps I was just sitting on the verge of, not really working with my fears. And so I really started working with my fear. It obviously did not happen overnight. It did not happen single-handedly. I had to take the help and the guidance and the support of a coach who worked with me for several months to help me navigate through my fear, to help me make a plan, which is like the blueprint of success, like they call it. And therefore, take calculated risk, if I may call it. And so, which is what I did. And I'm happy that I did, because today I also work with individuals, helping them navigate through career transitions, helping them change or switch industries, because I have been someone who has been a career switcher myself. And so therefore I know, what it takes to kind of switch over. And so many people actually kind of approach me who are probably sitting on the fence of having a great idea and a great, business plan, but somewhere they have not kind of transitioned into a full-fledged entrepreneurial space, or possibly they are wanting to shift from industry A to industry B, both of which I have done. And so therefore what I share purely comes in from my own personal lived experience rather than quoting off a framework which is written in a book.